Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jalen. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 horror/thriller movies of all time, my top 5 favorite books in that genre, as well as my top 5 most anticipated books in the horror/thriller genre. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's get started. So, first, we're going to be talking about my top 5 favorite movies, and my number 1 on this list and my favorite movie of all time is The Sixth Sense. It is a 1999 movie starring Bruce Willis, Toni Collette, and it has that little boy that it's iconic for I See Dead People. He's in it as well. He plays 6-year-old Cole Sears, who is still dealing with the death of his dad and the grief associated with that. When he comes in contact with Malcolm, played by Bruce Willis, who is a child psychologist, their paths intertwine, their stories link, but throughout the movie, Malcolm is trying to help Cole dealing with what he thinks is just grief, loss, and maybe some type of mental illness. He's not too sure. But what he finds is something a lot more sinister than that. Cole actually sees dead people, and he's seen dead people since he was little. And what we get is this really interesting story where we have a lot of different relational dynamics. So we have Cole with the child psychologist and them trying to figure out exactly what the ghosts want. Do they want help? Do they want to hurt Cole? And we get this dynamic between Cole and his mom, who is played by Toni Collette. She is a young mother. She's working 2 jobs, and she's a really good mom, but she's just struggling to understand what's going on with Cole. He doesn't want to tell her because he doesn't think she'll understand, and he doesn't want to burden her because he does see the struggles that she goes through with working 2 jobs and also losing her husband as well. And so it's just a really beautiful, heartbreaking story. It's really weird to say that about a horror film, but it's fantastic. My favorite psychological thriller that I've ever seen. Like I said before, my favorite movie of all time. Emily and I actually watched it a couple years ago, and we cried the whole time. It's fantastic. If you know anything about me, I love a good deep dive into grief, loss, especially in children. Because I'm a child psych major, I'm actually going to be writing a paper on the movie The Sixth Sense, so I'm super excited about that. But if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense, I would highly recommend it. The twist at the end, I think about that to this day. It's one of those movies where you have to go back and watch over and over and over and over again just so you can see where you went wrong. How did they do this to me where I didn't see that right in front of my face? Insane. So good. My favorite movie. If you haven't seen it, I do think it's on Netflix, but I'm not too sure, so I would check that out. But yeah, I enjoyed that movie so much. So the next movie that I have, and the rest of these aren't in any order besides The Sixth Sense, because The Sixth Sense is at the top at number 1, my favorite. But the next one that I'm going to be talking about is The Others, starring Nicole Kidman. She shines in that movie. Oh my gosh. It's also an older movie. I think it came out in 2001 or something like that. But it takes place during World War II in England, and the husband actually gets deployed. He is away at war. He's away at war the entire movie. You only see one little clip of him, literally maybe a 3-minute scene. And so the entire rest of the movie focuses mainly on Nicole Kidman and then her 2 kids. And her kids have a photosensitivity to light. And so that was a really cool thing that they did in that movie, because they didn't have to create this suspense and intensity and darkness. That literally it was there because of the photosensitivity that the kids have. So the entire movie is pretty much in the dark, and they're walking around by candlelight. So it was really, really interesting. There's a lot of heavy Catholic themes, which is also really scary. Kids in general in movies are terrifying. I think we can all agree on that. And the little girl Anne actually is claiming that she sees ghosts in the house. And so it's also a psychological thriller. The end has the biggest plot twist. It's insane. You don't see it. These movies have hit me in my face, and they're just how did you not see that? And they're just done so well. These plot twists are done so well. Most times if it's a like a poorly done one. I can see that from like a mile away, but like holy moly, these plot twists are insane. So highly recommend The Others. It's so good. So good. The next one that I'm going to be talking about is Oculus. It's actually directed by Mike Flanagan, who is one of my favorite directors. He obviously directed The Haunting of Hill House. I love The Haunting of Hill House. If you didn't know, I love The Haunting of Hill House. Period. So Oculus is about these two siblings, and when they were young, around like 10 years old, I think, they lost their parents. Their parents were murdered, killed. They died. And since then, they're just trying to repair their relationship because they've obviously like lost contact, and just a lot happened when they were younger, and now they're trying to come back and figure out exactly what happened that day or that night, or just like over that span of time whenever leading up to the parents' death. And they all end up, after like breaking everything down, they realize that there's something about this mirror that the dad had in his office. And obviously there's some supernatural elements right there. We get some scary things that happen. That movie is terrifying. And the plot twist at the end. All of the movies that I have to talk about have just like amazing plot twists. Like, holy moly. Yeah, at the end, you're just so shook. My friend, one of my really good friends and I, Tamia, like, we, like, were watching it together, and we looked at each other at the end, and we're just like, what did we just watch? And we were like, let's put it on again. It was incredible, so I highly recommend that. I do think that's on Netflix, but also, I could be wrong. I have no idea. I'm not up to date on what's on and off Netflix. It, like, changes every month, so it's hard, but, it was on Netflix at one point in time. The next one that I want to talk about is Annabelle Creation. It is part of the Conjuring universe. I think it's the 4th movie, because there's Conjuring 1, 2, maybe it's the 3rd. Does Annabelle count? Yeah, so it's like Annabelle, Conjuring 1, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, The Nun. I didn't like any of those other movies besides Annabelle Creation. I love me a good origin story, and just like the whole idea behind Annabelle was so interesting. Like, it had me captured from like scene 1. Insane. It was so good. I felt like they really took everything that worked very well in the other movies, and just like, you know, put it really nicely in Annabelle Creation. I really liked it. I'm not sure, I think you can watch that movie without seeing anything else, because I do think that it's obviously the origin story, so it takes place before anything else has happened. But yeah, I would highly recommend that. I really like it. I actually really want to watch it again, but I can't find it anywhere, and I don't own it. So we'll see. Maybe it'll get on Netflix in October, because it's almost Halloween. So who knows? But I loved Annabelle Creation. It was so good. So good. And the last one in my top 5 horror movies is Sinister. I freaking love this movie. So I was actually going to watch it like last week or 2 weeks ago, but my friend and I were just really scared, and we just were like, it's too dark outside. It was just too much, so we watched Hamilton instead. But basically, Sinister is about this family, in particular the dad. It follows the dad pretty much the entire story, but he is a famous true crime writer, and they all moved to different parts of, like, different towns and cities, because he ends up writing about a murder or a crime or something that happened in that town. And because of that, he has a really bad relationship with law enforcement. And when we first meet this family and they're moving into their new house, the wife is actually like, please don't tell me that we moved into a house that's like 2 doors down from like the biggest murder in this town. He was like, no, you think I would do that? No, of course not. They actually moved into the house that this murder occurred. So what we find out is that this family was actually killed in the house, and one of the children is actually missing. And so when they're moving into the house, the dad goes to the attic and he finds this box of tapes, and he starts watching them, and they're all named after something really innocent. So like pool party or picnic or something like that. And then they end up being like literally the murder. The murder is videotaped on these like files, and it's terrifying. Obviously there's something like demonic going on. It's horrible. And like, what's the scariest part is like, you can't escape. Like, that's all I'm gonna say, because no spoilers, but like, you can't escape. You can't escape. It's terrifying. I highly recommend that movie. It's one of my favorites. So good. And that concludes that segment. So now we're going to go on to my top 5 favorite horror / thriller books of all time. So let's get into that. Obviously, we know what's coming. Do we? I mean, I know what's coming, and you should know what's coming if you've been here. But it's The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Did I mention that this is my like my favorite like TV show of all time? Like The Haunting of Hill House, the adaptation by Mike Flanagan. I love it so much, and I really, really loved this book. I've read it twice this year. I've given it 4 stars. I have a whole video talking about The Haunting of Hill House, the book, and the adaptation. I would highly recommend you go and watch that. Haunting of Hill House Season 2 actually comes out in October 9th, I'm pretty sure, so I'm really excited about that. Please pick this up. It's incredible. Can I talk about it anymore? Yes, I will, in like every video, so just get ready for that. The next one that I have, I've also talked about in a recent video, and it is The Whisper Man by Alex North. I talked about this in my August wrap-up video. I would highly recommend you read this. It's terrifying. It's so much fun. Literally from like page 1, you're just so shook. You just have to finish it. I finished it in like a day. Like my heart was pounding the entire time. It was insane. Insane. Highly recommend. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. It's so good. Please go read it. You can get it from the library, please. So good. The next one that I have is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I talked about this in a July wrap-up, I think. I really, really loved this book. I think this is my favorite Stephen King novel. I haven't read too many of his novels, but wow, this one was so, so good. I would highly recommend. I mean, like, honestly, like, all of these books, like, people talk about these books all the time. So, like, you know that they're so good. Like, go ahead and read them. Just, like, bite the bullet. Do it. It's so good. The next one of my top 5 favorites books in the horror genre is actually Before I Sleep. I don't have a physical copy because I actually lent it to a friend and then she never gave it back. And then now we're not that good friends anymore. So I'm like, do I ask for it back? Like, what do I do? I don't know. So let me know what you do in those situations. But it is Before I Sleep. I love that book a lot. I read it in high school. It's about a woman who has amnesia, and she wakes up every morning not knowing anything that happened to her. And then one day, like the day that we wake up with her, she is going through her closet and she finds a notebook that says, do not trust Ben, who is her husband, which is terrifying. And so it's her reading that diary that she's been writing all these years that she's been writing recently, and then leading up to that day. And you just find out a lot of scary and crazy things. You find out what happened to her, all types of things, a psychological thriller, or a really good plot twist. It's so good. Please go read it. I read it in high school, and I remember just like reading it in my macroeconomics class and like taking it out, and I was just like, oh my gosh, she's like, class is about to start. I'm like, I can't start sis, I gotta finish this. And then like when I did, like I just like put it down on the desk. I just like sat there and I was like, I want to go home. Like, what do I do now? It was so, so good. I love when a book makes me feel like that. And the last one is my favorite book of all time, and it is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I love Rebecca so much. The atmosphere, it's a gothic horror. Whew, it's insane. Oh my gosh, it's just beautifully written. I love everything about it. My copy has been through, she's been through some things, but I love her for it, you know? And I got a really beautiful, beautiful copy from my local used bookstore. Like, look at how pretty. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I'm not going to be bringing this one into the bath. So yeah, that's that for my top 5 favorite books in the genre. Now I'm going to talk about my 5 most anticipated books that I want to read in the horror / thriller genre. So let's get into that. My first one is actually one that I have right here, and I'm probably going to be reading this weekend because it's really, really exciting, but it's The Good Son by Yu Zhong, and it is a psychological thriller. This is actually the first of her novels to be translated into English, which is so cool, and I've heard so many good things about it, and it's like, it seems like the perfect length for like a good Labor Day weekend where I have a lot of work. I'm really excited. I can't wait to read this. It's gonna be so, so, so good. I don't really know much about it besides that it's a psychological thriller. So the next one that I have is The Troop. I don't really know much about this book other than Kat and her dad really recommended it. And it looks really interesting. It's about this man who takes these boys to a camping trip, and then yeah, some crazy stuff goes down. I don't know much else about it, so it sounds really good though, and I'm excited about that. The next one that I have is The Turn of the Screw and Other Henry James's Novels. So Henry James's The Turn of the Screw and a couple other of his ghost stories are actually the central focus of and the inspiration for The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is the anthology season after The Haunting of Hill House by Mike Flanagan. And so that comes out October 9th, I'm pretty sure. It might be October 6th. I think it's October 9th though. And I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be doing an entire video where I read the books and then I watch the series at the end of the vlog, and I'm really excited about it. And then I'm going to do a whole nother video of like a book to adaptation type thing. And I'm super, super pumped about that. So that's that one. The next one is The Shining by Stephen King. I really want to see the movie. I haven't seen it. Everyone has seen that movie. Everyone knows what it's about, and I have no idea what it's about, and I just don't know anything, and I really want to read the book before I watch the movie, you know what I mean? So I hope to do that this year, definitely around Halloween, because I feel like I've been like really itching to have a really good horror story. So we'll see. And the last book in that is The Devil All the Time by, I have no idea, by someone. But I don't know much about that book either. But I do know that they are making an adaptation. It comes out either this month or next month. It has Robert Pattinson in it as well as Tom Holland. So iconic, and I just heard so many good things about it. So that actually concludes and wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you are wanting to read any of the books that I talked about, or if you know of any of the movies that I talked about, because let's talk about The Sixth Sense. I could talk about that to the day that I die. I will die for that movie. It's so good. Thank you guys so much for watching, and comment down below any of your thoughts. I would love to hear them, and we will see you in the next one. Bye!